This is the Isuzu Crew Cab chassis. It's a new variant in the D-Max Ute range. It's automatic, it's four-wheel drive, and it certainly looks purpose-built for work and for play. But does it tick all the boxes with you? Well, that's what we're here to find out, so stick around. Standard features in this ute include a 9-inch multimedia display with sat-nav, Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, an 8-speaker sound system, dual-zone air conditioning and more. Read my full review at the CarsGuide website for those details. This D-Max also has heavy-duty 3-leaf spring suspension at the rear, and that's engineered for load hauling, but more about that later. We'll put the dimensions of this D-Max up on screen now just to give you an idea of what sort of space it takes up in the real world. But in terms of styling, it has that real basic look and feel of any self-respecting cab chassis ute, which is perfectly fine. There are a range of exterior paint jobs available. This one is Mercury Silver Metallic, and that looks pretty good. Overall, it certainly looks purpose-built for work and a fair bit of play, but we're going to check out how practical it is. And for that, we're going to go to the business end, the tray. The cab chassis variant's major point of difference over a tub-style ute is the fact that it has a tray. Now, this is a heavy-duty alloy version, but you can get economy alloy or a heavy-duty steel version. There are load restraint points in the base of the tray, and this tray also has a rear window protector, but it doesn't end there. You can also get a lockable toolbox that goes under the floor, or a water tank which also goes under the floor, so you really can customize it to suit your lifestyle or to suit your work. As well, you could also add a ladder rack, and that just offers you a little bit more flexibility for work and for off-road touring. Of course, I'd prefer to be sitting in the driver's seat, but the back row is actually not too bad. The seats are reasonably comfortable. I've got plenty of room. I'm not a basketballer, you might have noticed, but plenty of space and head and shoulder room and knee room. And you've got the usual stuff that you'd expect in a dual cab, like an armrest with cup holders, seat back map pockets. You've got some air vents here, a tiny little shelf. I don't know what you'd put in there, but you do have a USB port there, and also a bit of a cargo hook in the back of that seat, and bottle holders in each door. So pretty much everything you'd expect to find in the back seat of a dual cab. The interior is a utilitarian space, and it really is work and life friendly. You've got rubber mats on the floor, cloth seats, plenty of hard, durable surfaces everywhere, but there are some nice touches like leather on the steering wheel as well as on the shifter. There are plenty of storage spaces here. You've got bottle holders in the doors. You've got a reasonably sized center console here, as well as a glove box and a sort of hidden shelf glove box there. You've got cup holders underneath each outboard air vent. And in terms of usability, it's a pretty friendly space. That screen is pretty decent. It's a 9-incher, and that's full color, and that's pretty easy to use while you are stationary and as well as while you're driving. Under the bonnet is a 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It produces 140 kilowatts and 450 newton meters. This D-Max has a 6-speed automatic transmission, part-time 4-wheel drive and a rear diff lock. The engine and auto combination are a real solid proven one, and that's on and off road. The engine is rarely stressed. The auto is a real smart shifter most of the times anyway, and it's all backed up by a clever suite of driver assist technology. A real nice surprise about the D-Max is the fact that it is quite refined on road. It is composed and it is very drivable. It's comfortable, and for a ute, it's quite a good all-rounder on the bitumen. The D-Max actually does pretty well as an on-road cruiser. It's got a real relaxed feel to the engine. You can just truck along without too many hassles. There's a pretty sharp response to the throttle, and that auto is pretty clever, pretty cluey. It won't win any awards for being the most dynamic vehicle around or the most energetic, the most lively to drive on road, but if you expect it to, then you're missing the point entirely, because the charm about the D-Max is the fact that it is a little bit rough around the edges, but still manages to be quite an agreeable vehicle to drive on sealed surfaces. For a ute, the D-Max manages to be quite refined. You don't get a lot of noise from outside, and it's also quite comfortable in here. This D-Max has an unbraked towing capacity of 750 kilograms and a brake towing capacity of 3,500 kilograms. And while this D-Max's automatic transmission can become a little bit thrashy, especially on the open road and on long hills with a slower gradient than others, it feels a whole lot more at home during low speed, low range four-wheel driving. It really seems to be built to suit this sort of stuff, and in conjunction with that engine that has plenty of low down torque, then it works really well. There is a real growing subculture of those who prefer cab chassis variants over the tub style body of other utes, and you can understand why, because they offer a bit of flexibility with regards to packing and also practicality. And as well as those factors, you can choose your style of tray. There's a heavy duty alloy tray on this, as I mentioned before, but you can opt for an economy alloy or a heavy duty steel tray if you'd like. It depends, because it boils down to your lifestyle and your work. I mean, what you choose. You might choose a ladder rack, or you might choose the underfloor lockable toolbox. Really, the sky's the limit. And I see a lot of cab chassis in town and around on the bush tracks, and I mean across all vehicle makes, Ford Rangers, Hiluxes and D-Maxes of course, and people fit them out with genuine accessories, or they opt to go to the Aussie aftermarket, which has a sterling reputation in terms of the quality of the gear and the sheer volume of the gear. On road, the D-Max manages to be quite a refined vehicle. Well, that's for a ute anyway, but it's off-road that it really feels right at home, because it's on the rough stuff where the engine really comes into its own. It's never stressed. It's just got a lazy, sort of relaxed way of applying power and torque, and it may not have the figures of some of its rivals like Hilux and Ranger, but it applies that power and that torque in such a controlled fashion that it makes up for it. Steering has a nice feel to it. It feels a little bit light, but it does generally have a nice weight to it, especially when you're doing low range four-wheel driving. And the D-Max's traction control system has been recalibrated through the last couple of phases, and it's getting closer to being on par with some of its rivals. Throttle response is pretty decent, and that's important when you're off-road to maintain that controlled and sustained momentum. And the suspension in this cab chassis, those leaf springs at the rear, makes for a bit of a firm ride. And when I say firm, I mean spine jarring every now and again. Unless you've got a bit of a hefty load at the back, sort of controlling things, sitting things down, you're gonna bounce around a little bit. And what can be said for most showroom standard four-wheel drives is the fact that the tyres, while they're set up for on-road driving because they're quiet and they offer a nice ride, they really aren't set up for off-roading, especially low-range, low-speed four-wheel driving. To help make this D-Max better suited for hardcore four-wheel driving, you'd want to throw a set of decent, aggressive, all-terrain tyres on. But that's an easy fix. So beyond a few minor niggles, the D-Max really is impressive when you hit the rough stuff. There's a decent amount of ground clearance, it's got a pretty good wading depth, and the mechanicals and the driver assist tech all combine to make a pretty handy off-roader. The D-Max has the maximum 5-star NCAP safety rating, and that's from testing in 2020. Its comprehensive driver assist suite of tech includes adaptive cruise control and AEB. But for all of those details and more, make sure you read my full yarn at the CarsGuide website. Fuel consumption is listed as 8 litres per 100 kilometres, and that's on a combined cycle. On this test, I recorded actual fuel consumption of 9.5 litres per 100 kilometres. The D-Max has a 76 litre fuel tank. The D-Max is covered by a 6-year, 150,000 kilometre warranty and 7 years of roadside assistance. Servicing intervals are scheduled for every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, whichever comes first, and cap price servicing applies to your first 7 scheduled services. The D-Max Crew Cab chassis is a handy all-rounder, and there are a stack of things to like about it, just in terms of the way it handles on and off-road duties. It's comfortable and capable, and there are a heap of positives. I'm talking about the unstressed engine and just overall practicality and drivability, and those factors make it a very appealing prospect if you're looking at a ute as a work and touring vehicle. But what do you reckon? Have your say in the comments section below.